What's up, my beautiful people? Welcome back to our channel. I'm your host, Richie, here with Jesus.
Hi.
And on today's episode, we're going to be reacting to a video from the channel Snarky J, who's going to be discussing modern day dating, and we'll be giving our commentary to what she has to say. So make sure you check out the original video, check out her channel, show her some love, and if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel as we attempt to get to know the society we live in a little bit better. So with that being said, get comfortable, stick around, and join us.
Right now, we have more ways of meeting people than ever before, and yet dating is probably the worst it's ever been. Hey y'all, Snarky J Cosplay here. In the modern era, less and less do we want to go to a bar, buy a non-pretentious drink, and sit around waiting for somebody to pay attention to us, and that's why the dating app was created. A modern solution to modern problems that launched us into the modern dating era. Now, we had big expectations. Dating apps like Bumble, Match.com, Hinge, Tinder, what have you. They were supposed to help expand our options. They were supposed to help us find love or a late night booty call that much faster. And they were supposed to get rid of that first meeting awkwardness. To be completely fair, they did scale things in a massive way. Over 350 million people worldwide use dating apps. And depending on the app and who's running the study, between 30 and 39% of US adults at some point has tried out a dating app. For my age group, from 18 to 29, I'm getting so much closer to the far end of that, I'm traumatized, about 65% of the people in that age range have used dating apps. So clearly, for as much of an expectations versus reality thing as I'm setting up with this video, this isn't just some niche thing. Dating apps are how people date now, and it's gotten worse than ever. See, dating used to be a complex arrangement of chemicals, molecules, pheromones, carefully placed one-liners, and well-constructed Colombian shapewear. But now, dating has become a system based on an algorithm. Now, what do I mean by that? The apps turned dating into profiles instead of people. And we'll talk a little bit more about the whole profile aspect later on. Swiping instead of approaching, because why would you ever try to talk to anybody anywhere if you can just do this until the cows come home? They turn dating into matches instead of connections. These are two very different things. And the design of these apps matters. See, back in the day when you had like eHarmony, OkCupid, Plenty of Fish, and Match.com, people had to put in a significant amount of effort to make these profiles, and it was an entirely different model. But when Tinder hits the scene, they essentially create and popularize that fast-paced method of swipe right if you're interested, left if you're not, swipe right, swipe left. It is fast, it is visual, and it is addictive. These apps are literally built like reward systems. You're not meeting people, you're just filtering through them. Most people actually get on dating apps and rarely ever go out with more than one or two people before they give up. And the fun thing is, that's exactly what these apps are hoping for. See, Tinder's your booty call app, and then you've got Bumble, which puts the power in the hands of the women, not. And then you've got an app like Hinge. See, Hinge claims to be different. They're the app that's designed to be deleted. That's literally their motto. They're out there to help you find love. Well, let me ask you something. When is the last time you got a subscription service that you paid for and they were hoping to help you enough so that you'd stop paying for this subscription service? Hinge doesn't want you to find love because then you'd stop paying them $9.99 a month to get premium. They want you on the app. The online dating industry is a $6.18 billion, that's billion with a big old B, dollar industry. They don't want you happy and in love. They don't want to see your RSVP, and they definitely don't want to hear your wedding story. They want to hear how long you've been on this app paying them in hopes that somebody will pay attention to you. This leads me to the gamification problem. We already talked about the system of dating apps, right? But the behavior itself, from people looking for relationships, from people using these apps for their intended purposes, has shifted entirely as a result of the system established by the apps. People aren't just looking for relationships anymore. They're looking for attention, validation, Only 7% of the US population is currently an active user of a dating app, which is kind of a stark contrast from those numbers I gave you earlier. But think about that, active users. That means that out of those 40% of adults pretty much that had tried dating apps, only 7% are active users. Why is that? Because the dating apps fucking suck, Jan. So many people decide to download an app and they put their hopes and their dreams and their Pinterest board of cute fairy themed weddings. They put all of that into a carefully curated profile to try to attract the one, a one, someone, anyone, but they don't stick with it. There is growing user fatigue and user drop-off on all of these apps. Despite the huge business that these apps have become, shares in the Match Group have dropped significantly in the last 5 years. That is, since the pandemic ended, which basically translates to people aren't loving the experience. When the bars were closed, when the clubs were closed, sure, everybody floated to Bumble, Hinge, Tinder, Match, whatever, because there was no other way to meet a person. After that, people looked at the dating apps over the past 5 years and they've decided, I think I'd rather touch grass and meet a woman or a man in person. The average person downloads a dating app just looking to meet somebody they can share life with. And the average user leaves the dating app feeling like it's something that values metrics and an algorithm over their own experience. It doesn't serve the user, so why would the user stay? Part of the reason why dating apps don't serve the user, though, is the illusion of infinite options. This is probably my biggest issue with dating apps today, and it's way less about the apps themselves and way more just about the structure of them and how we, as human beings, as warm-blooded mammals, interact with these apps.
Okay, so with the first part out the way, so I want to share, so I'm 32 now, so I got onto dating apps, I want to say like mid 2017, somewhere around there. And I actually stopped probably like midway through 2019, maybe at the end of 2019. I don't even remember. And I would get off and on throughout the next few years. I wasn't really on a lot of these apps, like eHarmony, OkCupid, Plenty of Fish. I was on it for like a couple months. Madge, I think I tried it for like a couple months, but then they kept asking for subscription pay, and I was like, hell no. Tinder, I've been on it, then I get off of it right away. Same thing, it's just Bumble. I've also tried like Clover. I'm not sure if that's still around. Yeah. So those are kind of the apps that I've been on. I think I've tried like one or other two like lesser known apps. I've also been on this one app, but this is more like a international friend app, but through that, I guess you could technically also date. So my experience has been kind of mixed, mostly mid, and some negatives, and one or two a handful of girls that women that I did go out on dates with, so I can't really say that it was completely bad. With Tinder, I don't think I ever went on dates. I did talk to like one or two girls. Plenty of Fish, I did meet one ex-girlfriend, and from the other apps, I think I met like maybe 3 other females that I eventually dated for a couple months. Um so those were more on the positive side. I think the issue that I had that was like 80%, if not 85% of the time, a lot of the profiles were fake. A lot of the profiles were, and Snarky J is going to talk about it a little bit later on, so I'll get more into that. So though that was kind of my experience. It was, like I said, it was a little bit pre-pandemic. So yeah, I just kind of want to give a little bit like that was my experience. But I'll get deeper in as she kind of gets deeper into what she's discussing. So, Jesus, you got anything to say before we continue?
From the very little like experience that I have, on those apps. I did encounter like a lot of bots too. And obviously, like a lot of people are looking for something very specific on certain apps. I mostly used Bumble and OkCupid back when OkCupid was good. And I've had some conversations, but nothing really led to any dates. So to me, it's like having the little experience that I did have, and I think I got on Bumble recently too. Um, I haven't really noticed that anything has changed, honestly. There's way more like subscription fees in your face. There's way more ads
Oh yeah.
now,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, get the super like for like $5 a month or something, and it's like, I just don't like that. Like honestly, like it's kind of weird, and I feel like it makes the field of the dating app itself like way more less genuine than it already is.
According to a 2024 study, most men and women between the ages of 18 to 34 want a relationship. And can you blame them? I mean, nobody wants to go to the movie theaters alone. But the same study found that 91% of men and 94% of women think that this current dating environment is the most difficult it has ever been. We, as humans, were never meant to date and find a mate like this. 37% of dating app users claim that they feel there are too many options on the app. And you might be sitting there thinking, Jay, that's like my steak is too juicy, my lobster is too buttery. What are you talking about? Well, here's what I mean. You open a dating profile on one of these apps, and you swipe 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 and you swipe. In 15 minutes, if you swipe fast enough and you don't really pay attention to the profile, you could have gone through 200 plus individuals, men, women, whatever piques your fancy. Name one place. There's not even a bar that you could go to right now and find 200 women that you could go, yes, no, yes, no, yes. It doesn't exist. There is just no f***ing way that this works. So think about it this way. That's how a dating app works. 200 people in 15 minutes. And I'm being so cautious with the numbers right now. Think about it this way. Let's go back to like the times of the settlers, right? Let's look at like the Wild West. I wanted to take you back to medieval times, but I think you might get a little nervous and I don't have the chicken to serve you that they have at medieval times. So let's talk about the Wild West, a simpler time of people shooting bison carelessly out of train windows and dying needlessly of dysentery, and of course, duels in the streets with cool tumbleweeds. Maybe your dad is a farmer. This goes for any gender out there. Dad's a farmer and you live in the village. There might be 7 other people in your town in your age range. I'm gonna put it from my perspective, right? Let's say there's 7 other dudes in my town. Well, I'm not leaving my town because my dad's got a farm and I'm just not going anywhere because anywhere else is just the desert, right? So I'm in this town and I start thinking, well, Jedediah doesn't really have a beard that I like. I'm not into him. John Smith has a great haircut, but he smells like goat all the time. And I could go through those 7 and maybe nitpick about each and every one. But at the end of the day, I only have 7 options. So I might as well settle for one of those, because if I don't pick one of those 7 options, I don't know, I might end up being like a horse midwife for the rest of my life, right? If there's only 7 baddies in your village, you have to pick one of them, or else you're gonna be the crazy old cobbler talking to his dog all day while you make shoes, okay? There's not a lot of options. You had to pick. You were only ever meant to see 7 baddies. Now there's 7,000 baddies. And the illusion of choice is that you could be sitting there, I've been that guy, sitting there, licking Cheeto dust off your fingers. I don't like his hair. He carries a bag. Nice teeth. I don't like people who like Adam Sandler. That could be your entire decision-making process. And you feel you have all the power right in the palm of your hand in your grubby little Cheeto-stained fingers. And so the problem then is that your expectations of your life become really unrealistic. And so not only do they become unrealistic, but it becomes impossible. Because in the time where there were only 7 baddies in the village, if you went to dinner and the baddie was nice enough, you'd probably go, I'm gonna hold on to this one. I've settled for the baddie. When you think there's 7,000 other ones, you sit across from the person that you had a brief interest in, and you're sitting there going like, I don't really like the way she pronounces the word asparagus. I think I need to go back to the app. And you totally ignore any of the positive energy you'd established previously because there's so many other options. This illusion of choice makes it impossible to commit. It's the thing that keeps you scrolling on Instagram, for instance. When you hit every reel, well, the next reel could be the better one. The next reel could be even better. The next reel could be even better. That's what these apps have done to people. Well, the next girl could be even better. The next guy could be even hotter. So why settle for one? And it matters not from the perspective of people should have to settle, but the problem is that more options when it comes to dating doesn't actually make people happier. It makes them more indecisive, more critical, and less satisfied overall. Dating apps have made it where you're not choosing a person, you're effectively just comparing them to everybody else at any given time. And that's really no way to form a relationship with anybody.
I agree with her that scarcity impacts your choice. As she brought up the example earlier about being in a village and most likely only having like 7 options, right?
Mm.
And eventually the odds of her settling down with those options, or at least one of those options, is more likely. And the opposite can be true, where it's like if you have the opportunity to have multiple options, some people would take that and they'd be okay with it because they'd be under the assumption that, oh, I can always do better. And I've seen that mentality in people, and sometimes it sucks because the person might be good for them, at least in my opinion, hypothetically in this situation. But what about you?
Yeah. So for me, I think it's interesting when you compare like dating and, or at least like when you meet somebody and then you eventually decide to date in real life versus like online dating, whether or not you get to know the person. And I think it is kind of crazy how like in person you most of the time you are attracted to them like physically, then you start getting to know each other and then you decide whether or not you ask her out or ask him out, and then kind of get to the dating thing. Whereas online it's like you first have to choose whether or not you approve of them, right? um and then you have to wait, either if you're the one that reaches out or they're the one that reach out, there has to be that waiting period until you get to that point of like getting to know each other. And I feel that a lot of the time it's like you lose interest, I feel, a lot of the time, like
Yeah.
in that way. um Whereas like in person you get to know the person before you kind of get to that point where you decide like, hey, maybe I want to ask them out, or if they ask you out, like, hey, do I want to give them a chance? Whereas like online you have to like go through all these different steps of like getting just noticed or getting a reply or sending a message or whatever. And what she's saying was like, when your options are that big, um I think you take it for granted and you
Yeah.
scroll through all these
Definitely.
profiles. You're just, it's very, very superficial, because
Yeah.
it's not like you're getting to know the person. It's like they're obviously going to add in their description the best things about themselves, but it's not like you're actually getting to know the person for yourself. You're being sold, the best qualities that they're wanting you to know about them, the best picture and all that. And then I do think that, like, when you're scrolling through all these profiles, that there are some profiles where maybe they're not aesthetically pleasing to you, but if you would have given them a chance and gotten to know them, not settle, but gotten to at least given it a chance to getting to know them, who knows? Maybe if not dating, maybe at least a friendship could have come out about it. But because I feel in the dating world, online, it's so superficial, where it's more about, what we see, what we like, um, and not even giving it a chance to get to know a person, and then making our decision from actually knowing whether or not, is there a spark, is there any chemistry, is there anything that, I might like about the person. Um, so, like, what she was saying with the like the numbers and all that, and a lot of the time I feel it's more about selling you a product than selling you
Yeah.
an opportunity to actually get to know a person. So it's a yeah, it's kind of, if you really put some time into thinking about it, like what she said. This is not the way that we were meant to actually build any type of relationships. Because you spend a lot of time online, right? Like with video games, and like you have your online friends, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
But I doubt that the same way that you kind of went through the process of, like, when you were on online dating apps, compared to like getting to know your friends online through like video games or whatever. I'm assuming it's two completely different process in how you decide whether or not you want to talk to the person, right?
So I would say that the process is somewhat the same, but because it's online, right? And that brings in like another factor, which is like the distance, right? Some things are very different where as opposed to like bonding with you and Ian, right? Um it feels more personal versus like my online friends where there is that just digital screen between us and it doesn't feel as like personal. And I think that like I could attribute that to online too, like dating wise, because like again, meeting someone through online at first might not seem like personal at all versus meeting them in person. But then eventually if the online like does exceed to meeting them in person, then it's like, oh, now you will have that layer that feels more personal.
But comparing to like dating online and like making friends through, I don't know, video games, whatever you kids do nowadays online, like, is there a difference in like how you kind of like decide whether or not you want to talk to the person?
Yeah, there is. In online, you have like, oh, it's easier to avoid the person versus like in real life, right?
No, no, no.
Because
So
sometimes,
I'm saying,
mhm,
like, when you're on like a dating app, how
mhm.
like you have to like swipe and then like if you eventually land on somebody that you actually want to like talk to, compared to like the way that you meet your online friends. I'm assuming like playing video games, like that's something like you guys already have something in mutual, like that you got, like, a mutual hobby or whatever, mutual
Mhm.
interest. So you guys kind of like get take it a little bit slower, but you're not right there. Oh, I'm not gonna play with, I don't know, jerk that dick 422 or some shit. Like, I'm assuming there's a big difference from like dating online to playing with their friends online and get to know them, no?
I I would say that to a certain extent there is. I feel like online I have ran into a lot of people who want to move like a lot faster in relationships than they would like if they were in person, at least I'm assuming. you know?
Oh,
And then it's like with the online friendships, I feel like after a while
what's up, y'all? Richie here. I hope you guys are enjoying the episode so far. Just wanted to ask you guys for a real quick favor. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button. Help us grow this community to have people from all around the world living in this crazy society of ours try to find their place, find a platform where we can have discussions about things that matter to our lives. So, with that being said, let's get right back into the episode.
because I've known them for like 6 years, right? A lot of the friendships do feel more personal, even though that there is that distance. And to clarify, I have not met them in person. So I do feel like when I do meet them in person, it may be like a little awkward at first.
You might be sitting there thinking I'm totally full of shit, but the fact of the matter is that there are a lot of issues with these dating apps. So if they're providing us so much, right, if you want to defend the apps, why is everybody still single? Right now, around 37% of Gen Z says they're not even interested in dating, and half of US singles aren't even actively looking for relationships. Let that sink in. They're not even bothering. We live in a society where we have the most access ever, the most tools ever, and yet we also have the least motivation to actually date, which is a phenomenal contradiction. And I think definitely a big part of it is what I mentioned earlier, but I also think we've kind of gone into this weird place in society where a lot of what people eventually seek to get to with dating, and I'm so trying to say this in a PG-13 way, but a lot of times you had to sit through multiple dinners, maybe even meet the family. You had to commit to the bit before you got to, take something out of the cookie jar, you know what I mean? But why put all that effort into negotiating a deal to potentially buy a cow when you could swipe through this for an hour and have access to 17 different cows' milks for free because you sent a "what you doing" text at the right time? And for the record, I don't want people getting mad at me and thinking this is about, bulls looking for cows only. This is also about cows finding bulls, right? But there just isn't a good phrase for, what you get from a bull, because you can't milk a bull. Well, you can, but it's not really the same thing, and you'd probably have a really clingy piece of livestock until it dies, and also you would definitely end up on a government list. So anyway, let's talk about the experience problem though, because while I do think most of the issues when it comes to dating apps come from literally the apps themselves, from the way they're structured, from the way human beings' minds work, but I think a lot of the issues with modern dating actually persist outside of the online dating realm because of the experiences that people have within them. So many of the profiles on dating apps are so incredibly low effort. Holy shit. I have seen some men with profiles that look like they were written at gunpoint because they don't actually want to read anything. They just want to put pictures of themselves in hope that you would go, "Ooh, yes, abs and a boat," and you would swipe right. There's one-word answers. There's accounts with no biography at all. There's blurry pictures. There's people with 17 different pictures and they're all in a group or family setting and you don't know which is the guy you're messaging. And my all-time favorite is the fact that now, if you look up like best Hinge prompts, best Bumble prompts, there are entire websites that produce things that are so clever and so funny. I've literally seen the same line about Helen Keller not being real on like 75 different profiles 2 years ago. It was incredible. The interpretation as a result is that people aren't trying anymore. But let's take it a step further. The messaging experience is not fantastic. The same way internet comment sections are the lush gardens of absurd bullshit that they are, because they know they're not gonna get rocked upside the dome when they say something stupid, dating apps work the exact same way. People love to send explicit messages. Now, I don't know how women are on these apps, but I've gotten asked what color my areolas are more times on dating apps than I would like to express. Women on dating apps are significantly more likely to have to report harassment, sexual violence, threats, explicit messages, what have you, on dating apps than men. So there's tons of terrible copy and paste openers that are just low effort and arguably horrific to read. But then there's also this weird, petty, hostile energy that people mistake for negging but just comes across as rude. So all of this basically just equates to when you're on these apps, before you even get the chance to know someone, you're already having to filter out and deal with nonsense, which is insane.
Okay, so I kind of want to react to the last part that she just mentioned about the overall experience. Like I said, for me, I've been, I think my experience with over the years with dating apps, like I tried it, and when you started, obviously you get like really into it. So for me, for a couple years, I was really on it, but then eventually, messages wouldn't be responded, wouldn't get many matches, all the subscription bullshit, and just dealing with a lot of negative experiences, which I'm gonna get into. I think that's kind of what drove me to like, yeah, I'm just gonna meet people in person because all this, and plus I'm being told that in order to get likes or get I don't know, to be able to send like super message or whatever, like I'm supposed to be paying like $15 a month or some shit for those type of like features and all that. And I was just like, yeah, I'm not down for that. Yeah, I could literally I can meet somebody in person for free, and then if we like each other, then I'll pay for the date. But I'm not, this is just not for me. So that's kind of what drove me the kind of started the disinterest and discouraged me to getting off of dating apps. But the other part was the negative experiences. A lot of the stuff that she was touching on, I know she's gonna talk about it, that it's mostly towards women, and I agree because I've been on many different apps where I've actually gotten to know women, and they'll thank me immediately, like, thank you for not being a creep. I had these guys hitting on me, and it's not even just flirting; it's just being creeps. Nothing surprising, and just yeah. But even me being a guy on some dating apps, I've gotten or even like the app that I was talking about earlier, the international friend app. I've gotten messages from other dudes who are just, obviously they're gay, or I'm assuming they're gay, and they're like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, hey, how's it going? I'm thinking like, hey, we're gonna be friends, and whoa, what the fuck are you sending me, bro? And
They want to be
oh
friends,
yeah,
all
they want
right.
to be close friends. And I'm like, hey, to each his own, but I just don't roll that way. Not mentioning, at least like ask me if I'm into that. Um, but for me, from my experience as a dude online, what I have come across a lot is women selling like their OnlyFans pages, links to like what she's gonna talk about, like Snapchat. I don't know, follow her on wherever. Selling you like go. I'm going to go live if you want to like pay or whatever. A lot of scammers too. Like the profiles are clearly fake. Like you could tell that they're fake. And then they'll message you first, and they're like this like movie star chick, and it's like, bro, I know you're fake. I can literally see the filters. And then they'll be talking to you in like broken English, but they're supposed to be from, I don't know, somewhere here in the States. And you could just tell, you could just tell that they're not that person. um, and it was just a lot of that stuff. Not mentioning, a lot of the time you come across, like for me, I would come across girls that I'm like, hey, they're cute, but just the conversations would be dry. And I understand the ones that have had negative experiences, but then there's some that are like, hey, like I'll be like, hey, how are you? Good. What you doing? Nothing. Where you from? And then just insert whatever city or country or state or whatever, depending on the app. And it was just shit like, like damn. And then let's go to the small percentage of women that I will actually match with. Like half of them, I would say, eventually that spark would fizzle out, or just sometimes in the back of my mind, I knew I was never going to meet none of these chicks. And then the ones that I would, Either sometimes we're kind of, or some, again, it was mostly just superficial. I mean, physically attractive, aesthetically attractive, but just boring and out as all shit. I'm just like, okay, you know what? Nice meeting you. I'm just gonna keep swiping my ass. I don't know how you're. I'm just gonna swipe my message. But that was my experience. You got anything to share before we get back into it?
So she spoke on how the lack of effort, right, comes through. So what I wanted to ask you is how much effort would you put into your profiles whenever you were on the dating apps?
Like what she touched on at the beginning of the video, there were apps like Match, OkCupid, Plenty of Fish, at least
No, I
well,
meant like,
like those apps
like
that she mentioned that require you to kind of put a little bit more effort into like your profiles and your bios and all that. For those, obviously, I would put way more effort into it than the others. Like, I'm not much of a
mhm,
picture guy. Just, I've shared this
right.
before. Obviously, I'm visually impaired, so taking pictures, I'm just kind of camera shy. Um,
Hmm.
so to me, like, yeah, the picture stuff, the profiles, I would do it, and then obviously like Tinder or whatever apps that wouldn't really require that much effort, I wouldn't. Then, like for conversations, it would all kind of depend.
Hmm.
Like what she was saying, like you could go through like 200 different profiles in one day. For me, that's, at least in my experience, that's way too much. I have ADD, so to me, it's like I don't have the attention span to be sitting there and swiping with my little finger through like 200 fucking profiles. No, just maybe 10, 15, 20 profiles. And if I don't get a match, oh well, I'll try tomorrow. Like that was always kind of like my experience.
Right. I would put some effort depending on how, like, I uh felt about being on the app at the time. Uh Ironically, I had the most success on with Bumble, and I put like a very, very short bio. And it was pretty funny to just come to understanding that sometimes the effort is subjective. And I have another experience where my friend let me see her perspective because she was on, I think, OkCupid at the time. And so she let me basically sneak peek her profile, and I saw like a lot of dudes would either have effort in their bios or not have anything at all. And it was a really, really mixed bag. And she says that sometimes the biggest thing for guys is their pictures. Um, if she had to give a recommendation, try and snap a pic of yourself in the moment having fun and not attempting to look like you're having fun and take the friend pictures out of it. And I would have to say that like I agree with this one because on the terms of like effort, whenever I see like a woman's profile and she has her friends in there with her, it's kind of hard to tell like, oh, who's who? Like who am I looking for here? And even on like the other side too, where it's like um I would see a lot of profiles where they would have like a lot of effort into their bios, and it would be like a lot to read, but it would be very interesting to at least uh get to know some aspects of the person. And there were others where it's like you could obviously tell like, oh, it's a scam and they're fishing for something. And those are usually the bios with like the least amount of effort.
And I know what you're thinking. Jay, that was so petty. That was very obviously all about men. You man hater. I hate you. No, I'm just speaking from my experience because I don't date women. However, there's another side of this that women really don't have to deal with, but that men do. The sentiments from men on dating apps are that they feel ignored. They feel invisible and like they have to compete on some sort of level of status that they wouldn't normally have to compete with. You need status. You need a 6-figure salary. You need a boat. you need money, you need abs, you need all sorts of things to compete on a playing field that is inherently unfair, because the fact of the matter is that there are way more men on dating apps than women, and 9 times out of 10, only the top 1 to 20% of profiles of men are even being shown. There are dating profiles that are literally just being axed by the algorithm because they hope that you'll eventually get desperate enough to start paying for a membership. It's really the men on these dating apps that keep them running, because it's mostly men that buy these memberships. It's an incredibly low return yet high cost investment for male users on dating apps. And the up part of this perception that's created about dating apps, you need a boat, you need money, you need this, you need that, is really just the way the app's algorithms work. Because based on my experience with my friends that are girls that are out there dating, realistically, that's not all that they're looking for. The average human being is looking for another average human being that they can spend their life with. And then, of course, there's the clout and monetization problem. There are so many accounts out there of people just looking to promote their socials. You send a hi and all they want to do is get you on their Snapchat so they have one more friend. There are tons of accounts. I have a lot of friends that have told me that on the male side, there are so many accounts that are women literally just promoting their OnlyFans. So many dating profiles, both male and female, are literally just validation farming. How relevant can I look? How important can I look? How rich can I look? They're not even there to date. They're just there to be seen, to peacock, to showboat, to hot dog. They're not there for you. And this whole dating app experience creates a feedback loop. That's right. I've been bringing you on a journey. Let's come full circle. Men seeing all this bullshit start putting in less effort for women, and women seeing all this nonsense start expecting a whole lot more. And both sides, here's the kicker, both sides walk away thinking the other is the problem. After enough bad experiences like that, people stop seeing dating as something exciting, and they start seeing it as something exhausting. They stop trying in real life, and they just assume this is what dating is now. But honestly, I think a lot of this runs a lot deeper than just the apps. I think social media rewired relationship behavior in people. Dating advice has become content, and the algorithms reward extreme opinions, hot takes, and conflict. So people are out there learning dating from TikTok, from YouTube, from all these other apps. Both sides are being trained by people whose motives are just to make money. It's not to make it easier for people to date. They just want your viewership, and if they can frame the other side as the enemy, for you to get angry, for you to comment, for you to share, for you to talk shit, it's all the better for them and all the worse for us. With men, confidence gets turned into dominance. Flirting becomes strategy. Self-respect and self-improvement gets tied to status. And when it comes to women, standards turn into checklists. Independence gets tied to income and status. And the notion of knowing your worth basically gets translated to optimize the best deal for yourself. Everyone is out there being taught how to win at dating, but nobody's being taught how to be in a relationship. And on top of that, people are out there performing. Like I said, it's not just about being validated, but it's about them being able to create a curated version of themselves that 9 times out of 10 doesn't actually exist. I do think there's something to be said for, you never make a second first impression, and we should definitely put our best foot forward. But is it our best foot forward when we're essentially creating a version of ourselves that really doesn't exist in hopes to look appealing to the opposite sex? The dating scene has gone to shit, babies and gentlemen. Yes, we have more options, more access, and more performance. But overall, there's less effort, less connection, and even worse, less satisfaction. You might say a rolling stone gathers no algae, but these rolling stones can't get no satisfaction. I hate myself for that about as much as you do. And when we look at our lack of satisfaction and the fact that you can't always get what you want, I don't know why I started this whole rolling stone thing, but anyway.
Okay, so I want to talk about what she said. So I did experience that when I first started getting onto the dating apps, where I would see on YouTube videos of like dating coaches and all that. And obviously there were different dating coach videos about like real life, going on dates in real life, but then there were also a lot of dating app advice online, like coaching. And that would tell you, like, make sure that you're wearing this, or you take pictures of this, and something of your face, and not of you with no shirt on, or make sure to add this into the comment section. Start off with the pickup lines too, even on even online. Um, so I did come across that. I think what she said, that a lot of these apps, and even like the dating coaches for dating apps, they don't care about, or honestly want you to find like the partner, or find get into a healthy relationship. Because then to them it's like business is over. They want you coming back, they want you to continue on being on these apps, paying for the subscriptions, paying for all the features and all that. And even if you don't get much, any bites, or much bites, or at least the bites that you're trying to find, um they want you to just basically like, oh, it's okay, don't lose hope, keep going, keep trying, just keep swiping, keep going, keep paying. um and to me, that's I think that's it's in my own experience, if you're not, this movie star looking guy, or a very extroverted type of dude, or a guy that really knows how to take good pictures and all that shit, um or you're paying for all these subscriptions so that your profile is in the algorithm, where your profile is seen more, it's a bit discouraging. And especially like with your self-esteem, because like what she said, a lot of these guys think, that they internalize it, they take it personally. And a lot of the time we put the blame on the women, and not on these apps that are the ones who are doing all that. Like, once you start getting to know like how these the algorithms on these apps work, similar to like all these other like social media platforms, then you start seeing like, yeah, no shit, that's why you're not really getting that much attention. um but like I said earlier too, I think a lot of the time it's also women who maybe they're extra introverted, or they just have too many bad experiences, or it's women who don't, I don't know, maybe they just want to be there just because they're bored, and don't put too much also effort, in my experience, when it comes to like making an actual connection or conversation with guys that aren't just trying to like get in between their legs, but eventually. um like, they are trying to like build a connection, trying to have a conversation. And it's kind of hard to have a conversation with somebody that's just, yeah, oh, okay. Like, yeah, at least in my experience. You got anything before we continue?
I do agree with you that the apps are like they're trying to keep us on those apps. And like a lot of people like to blame other people for their issues instead of like trying to improve themselves. I know for a fact that, like, touching on like the dating coach stuff that you said earlier, I always see those videos too coming up on my like For You page, where it's like, oh, this is a strategy to get a girl to message you back, or this is the one message that you can send. And it's like, not everyone's the same, not everything's gonna work. And it's like it's interesting to see these dating coaches, and what they choose to do as far as like these dating apps go. And none of it really seems to go further than we're just dating. None of it really seems to go into the relationship or whatever, if it gets to that. Um, Also, I've seen a few of these singles events pop up on my For You page, and like they're like speed dating events in person and stuff like that. And I think those events need to come back in some way. Like, there needs to be more of that. And I understand that, there's also the rhetoric of like, oh, women don't want to be approached in public. Well, if there are more events like that, then, well, that excuse goes out the window, or that rhetoric doesn't exist, because that is the place to approach. I have seen some scenarios where A lot of women will show up to those events, but not a lot of dudes. Um, I can understand if people feel like really, really nervous to show up to those events and stuff like that. So it's like I get it, you know. And I also understand that like maybe it's like a confidence thing too. Um, I hope that the guys uh take the initiative and just treat it as an experience and not something to be mad about, because you never know what cool people you could meet at these events. Not just like women, but also other people, other dudes, you can make friends and stuff like that out of those events and not have like the intention to do so. But yeah, no, I just want those singles events to be more pronounced. I think it would help a lot instead of like having the dating apps and stuff.
Only about 1 in 10 couples actually met on a dating app and developed a real relationship out of it. Only 10 to 20% of couples that are partnered with spouses, engaged, fiancés, or married, only 10 to 20% of all of those people met through a dating app. And the interesting thing is that the divorce rate actually sucks for people that meet on dating apps. Couples whose relationships started online are actually 6 times more likely to divorce in the first 3 years than people who met through, friends, family, what have you. So despite the dreams that the dating apps sell us, they're not producing the outcomes that we want. So these apps are disappointing on so many fronts, and I think that they are probably the biggest problem with the dating situation right now. When we made our deal with the devil, when we opened the Pandora's box that is online dating, we didn't just change the way we meet people. We changed how we see them. And everybody in Silicon Valley moved to optimize dating so much that they accidentally made the whole notion completely disposable.
So before we wrap up, so I want to give two stories that I have, because I actually have two experiences that kind of line up to what she was saying. As for like, well, maybe not the divorce rate, but for sure the even when you match with somebody and not going the way that you wanted it rates. So for me, two experiences where I did connect to somebody. Funny enough, I actually met two women from Wisconsin. I wonder if they were from the same. No, no, no. They were. Anyways, but it was two different females that I dated at two different times, but both from Wisconsin that I did eventually meet. And it was, I don't know if what was up with it, but I think something that I don't know if just what they were looking for was very similar, but for some reason these two experiences were very similar. Even though there were two completely different situations where I would meet them online, spoke to them on I think one was on Plenty of Fish. I don't remember what was the where I met the other one, maybe also on Plenty of Fish. Um and we would be talking for like maybe a couple weeks, and already they're like, hey, when can I meet you? I'm like, good, soon, but let's first get to know each other just a little bit more, because you hear all these stories about like when you meet somebody from online and then turns out that they're they're actual dudes or scammers, and they're trying to I don't know, rob you or whatever, set you up to get robbed and all that. So I always been cautious about that. So I would like to get to know somebody for at least a month or two before meeting, just to verify that you're actually who you are, and you're just, because I've gone through, even with in different situations where like somebody I was talking to for at least 2 or 3 weeks. Eventually I found out that was her, but she was one of these, like, I don't know what platform she was on, but one of these scammers. But anyways, back to the other two girls. Um and they we would I remember with one I did actually get into a relationship. And after like probably like the third month of dating, we were already talking about, hey, well, okay, by we I mean her, was already talking about, hey, when are we gonna move in? When are we gonna get married? When are we gonna start having kids and all this? And right before her was the other situation where we were talking for at least 2 weeks, and one day she's like, hey, when are we going to like start dating? And I'm like, let's at least be talking for a couple months at least, like get to know each other. Oh, okay. And then we're gonna move in together. And I'm like, what the no? And and she was serious about it. Like, to her, she had done this before where she met somebody online, met in person, and then moved in with each other prior, like, I don't know, 6 months of knowing each other. And shocker, clearly, because she was back, online on the dating app, didn't work out. And she got mad when I told her, like, no, I don't roll like that. I don't do shit like that. Like, I actually want to get to know you, make sure that we're compatible. You're not a serial killer, like shit like that. And like I said, it was two different situations of women that I met online, where that happened. And I mean, the other relationships weren't as crazy, but clearly they didn't work out. Um, but yeah, that's kind of the experiences that I wanted to give. So I think today's episode, one thing that I was able to take away is the fact that, you have Snarky J, who, well, obviously a female, giving her opinion and her takes about the other side, because a lot of the time we as men, we only hear from each other, or other men about our experiences on dating apps, and whether it's, you got the guys who have crazy experiences, and then you got the guys who have just no luck on there. And again, we turn to a lot of these like dating coaches, or we start internalizing and, getting upset at women. So hopefully that this video, provides a little bit more of an insight from a female's perspective, as well as, like me and Jesus sharing our stories from our friends and other females that we've met online also that have shared their negative experiences, and not make it so black and white how a lot of guys think that it is, that it's just, oh, well, they want this and this and this. And we're not saying that that's not, happening, because there are female profiles that are doing that. There are women, like I said earlier, that are out there who are just promoting whatever platform that they're selling whatever their content is. And hey, you're out there hustling, that's you, cool. But that's not what I'm looking for. And if you're looking for a relationship, you got to know what you're going into, like look for. Also the apps that you're on, but also just you got to get to know women, though. Like, you got to get to know how women think, how women are, better your interactions with women. So hopefully from the perspective of a female, you understand a little bit more and not get, closed-minded, like, oh no, she, what does she know? No, because of this and this and this. Obviously, she's only going to give her experience and not touch on every other experience that every guy has had. But just wanted to say that. Make sure to check out the entire of the video. Check out her channel. Subscribe. Really like this. If you ever see this video, Jay, I really like your content. Really appreciated this take from a female perspective. Jesus, you got anything before I close it off?
It was a really nicely made video, and I appreciate the statistics at the end.
So, my final thoughts to anybody who listens, to all my guys out there. For me, and this is just my experience and my opinion, dating apps, they're for casualness, but if you're actually looking for something like more serious, I'm not saying that it's not possible, but it's highly impossible. Just the way that the algorithm works for a lot of these apps, and the way a lot of like these fake profiles and scammers and women just selling content, or even just the way that it's like for the women, they get more like it's honest, the apps are more for the women, like to get all these dudes after them, but it's also not really for women, because it's also not the type of guys that they want, because a lot of these guys, it's not all because I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm this, I'm that, because a lot of guys are acting like creeps. And regardless of dating apps, there's this, I don't know, weirdness of dudes not knowing how to behave online with women. Like, if you really are looking for a serious relationship, you got to clean yourself up. And I don't mean that just physically. I also mean the way that you speak to, you approach, and you interact with women. Like, it's not like, hey, just put my dick out and, hey, touch it. Come on. Like, that's not how it works. Don't listen to these dating coaches. Don't know shit. Don't listen to these dudes online. Like, man, all you got to do to get a bitch, you got to do this and this and this and this. Because again, all these people, what they're doing is profiting off of your misery, your experience, and your your money. Like, that's all they're doing. They're not actually trying to help you. They're not actually trying to guide you. They don't give a shit about you. So get to know women, whether in person or online, but don't be a creep. Don't be a asshole. Like, actually get to know women if you're actually trying to find a serious relationship. If you're looking for a casual relationship, all power to you. But if you're actually looking for some real connection with somebody, it's going to be harder online. If that's what you want to do, go for it. I would say get the off these apps. Stop giving these motherfuckers your money and actually go out there in person. Even if look, I have problems with social anxiety. Jesus does too. It's not always easy getting ourselves out there, and it's not always easy interacting with the opposite sex, right? But being online, it's going to hurt you more because it's going to crush your confidence more, and you're going to be putting up with more rejections than you would in person. But lastly, get to know them. Like, that should be your first goal, is actually getting to know somebody. And then decide if there's a mutual connection, whether or not you want to continue from there. Now, my main goal is to get somebody in bed, or my main goal is to, get into a relationship. Because that's not how it's going to work out, man. Again, I've been on these apps at different times and different phases of my life with different goals and perspectives. And when I was going in there to just get some, I got some, all right. But it was some crazy ones, Q, all that good stuff. But yeah. So I really want the guys who are out there trying to find a connection to actually find the connection that they're looking for. But my advice is to try to do that in person, work on it, get yourself out there, get used to the uncomfortability. And if you're on these apps, that's your decision. But just clean up your act for a lot of you guys. And for those that feel discouraged and all that, again, just look into it. Just look into how these apps actually work, and actually hear from females, like, how to approach. If you're trying to better, like, your social skills, your interactions with women, if you have sisters, if you have female friends, I don't know, cousins, like, don't just randomly walk up to a random female and be like, hey, tell me how to approach a woman. Don't do that. But, like, if you have females in your life that are platonic or familial, family, whatever, get to know women like that. Like, get to know how they think and all that. Because, yes, there is a difference in the way that we men and women think. So, also, the approaches are different. If a female walks up to me and like, hey, you're cute, I'm going to be like, hey, okay. Compared to, like, if a dude walks up to me and says that. I mean, I might say thank you, but with that being said, guys, like we said, check out the video, check out her channel. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time. Take care, stay safe, and look for love, man. Love is beautiful. Don't give up on it.